This man right here defied all odds this past NFL season. He did something that just doesn't happen in the NFL. For many, the NFL stands for not for long. Geno Smith was destined to reinforce this. Except he didn't. On week 8 of the 2014 NFL season, the Bills laid down a beating for the ages on the New York Jets. The Jets led by, and I use led very lightly here, second-year quarterback Geno Smith. They were dead in the water right from their opening drive 3 and out, a New York Jets classic. The Bills quickly ran up the score with a potent pass attack led by quarterback Kyle Orton, you know, the man who was benched for Tim Tebow in 2011. Geno would trot out on offense, throwing an interception to Stephon Gilmore, Preston Brown, and Aaron Williams in 3 consecutive drives. Geno was benched in favor of veteran quarterback Michael Vick after the worst first quarter imaginable. Put it simply, it was interceptions galore for the Jets and Geno Smith that day. Geno Smith's dismal stat line of 2 for 8 passing, 5 yards, and 3 interceptions led all Jets fans to believe he wasn't going to be anything special in the NFL. With more interceptions thrown than passes completed, this takes the cake as one of the worst quarterback starts I have ever seen from a Jets quarterback, which quite frankly says a lot. So yeah, Geno had a rough going of it early in his NFL career. It became quite clear why his draft stock plummeted going into the 2013 draft. In 2012, Geno Smith was a senior at West Virginia. He was the projected #1 overall pick on Mel Kiper's famous mock draft. Despite putting up great numbers, the Mountaineers had a disappointing 2012 season. The Mountaineers started the season 5-0 and Geno Smith was balling, albeit against weaker competition. During this streak, Geno had a game for the ages against Baylor. He threw for 656 yards and 8 touchdowns against Baylor. That was the 4th most passing yards ever recorded in a single game in Division I history at the time. His stats in these first 5 games of the season were Heisman level, and West Virginia was ranked #5 in the country going into a matchup with unranked Texas Tech. Texas Tech not only upset West Virginia, but completely blew them out. This game was the first domino to fall in West Virginia's 2012 season. After suffering another blowout to Kansas State and a 1-point loss to Texas Christian, the Mountaineers fell out of the top 25 after being ranked #5 in the country mere weeks prior. During this 5-game slide, Geno put up 1,365 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and completed 60.2% of his passes. It wasn't bad, but it was a clear downgrade to his previous stretch of Heisman caliber play. I haven't found a strong reason for Geno Smith's draft stock dropping as quickly as it did, but going from being ranked #5 to unranked in 3 weeks and losing 5 straight in the middle of the season may very well have played a role in it. Actually, it definitely played a role in it. The 2013 NFL draft was a pretty peculiar one to say the least. NFL analysts called it one of the most unpredictable first rounds in recent NFL draft history. As for Geno, he was expected to go anywhere from the first overall pick to falling out of the first round altogether. The Kansas City Chiefs possessed the #1 pick, and as we now know, the Chiefs traded for Alex Smith, who would be their franchise quarterback for several seasons. So the Chiefs went with Eric Fisher, who ended up being a great pick for them, as he would be a mainstay on the Chiefs' offensive line for most of the 2010s. The Jaguars had the 2nd pick in the first round, and they could also use a quarterback. Instead, they went with the safe pick and drafted Luke Joeckel. Who's Luke Joeckel, you ask? Well, Jacksonville expected him to be an all-pro level tackle. He wasn't, and yeah, didn't make much of an impact over the course of his 5-year NFL career. The Browns had the #6 pick, and the Browns being in a perpetual state of needing a quarterback, some figured maybe they'd pick Geno. Instead, they went with linebacker Kiki Mingo, who didn't exactly pan out for a #6 pick, but he still had a pretty solid career all things considered. The first round went on, and notable players such as Geno's West Virginia teammate Tavon Austin, Sheldon Richardson, Justin Pugh, Xavier Rhodes, DeAndre Hopkins, and Cordero Patterson were taken. As an aside, why was Tavon Austin taken 8th overall? What did the Rams expect from a 5'8" wide receiver? What, they took him 8th overall so they could run wide receiver screens, run reverses, and have him return punts? I mean, don't get me wrong, he was good at all of those things, but 8th overall for that? When DeAndre Hopkins was still on the board? Anyways, I digress. The first round went by, and Geno's name was not called. Where was Geno to go now? Well, his fate happened to come in the form of green and white.
With the 39th pick in the 2013 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Geno Smith, quarterback, West Virginia.
As a Jets fan, I remember being very excited when New York Jets legend Wayne Corbett announced this pick, especially after witnessing the butt fumble a season prior. The 2013 season came, and Geno was named the opening day starter, and he was ready to make his debut against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Geno held it down in his NFL debut, completing 24 out of 38 passes with 256 yards and a touchdown and an interception apiece. But he made the play of the game, drawing a late hit penalty that put the Jets in position to win.
15 seconds left to go. Geno Smith flushed out of the pocket, runs out of bounds for the first down, and hang on a second. That is a late hit penalty on the Buccaneers. Levante David hits Geno Smith after he's taken a step out of bounds. The Bucs coaches say, don't do that again, we could lose. And they do lose. Next play, Nick Folk.
Whether you consider that a late hit or not, it was still a very exciting win. Geno drew a questionable late hit call leading to a game-winning field goal before Patrick Mahomes made it cool. So, you know, thumbs up for that. Geno's rookie year was a mixed bag. His highs were high, and his lows were low. But he showed flashes of greatness in a few games though. Week 3 against the Bills, he broke 300 yards and scored 3 total touchdowns in a close win. Week 5 on Monday Night Football, Geno Smith flat out balled against a struggling Falcons team. He completed 16 out of 20 passes for 199 yards and 3 touchdowns with 0 turnovers and led the Jets down the field to win it on a field goal as time expired. This efficient stat line would be reminiscent of the numbers he put up in 2022. After completing 80% of his passes and putting up a near perfect pass rating of 147.7, this performance led many Jets fans and New York sports media to believe that Geno Smith was the guy. In current year terms, that Geno Smith was him. In Week 7, Geno beat the Patriots, outdueling Tom Brady, which is a big deal for Jets Nation. Things were looking up for Geno and the Jets, or so we thought. The Jets upset the Saints going into their bye week, but after that bye is where Geno's lows would show. From Week 11 to 17, Geno completed only 52% of his passes and turned the ball over more than he scored. The Jets ended their season with a strong win against the Dolphins, ending with an 8-8 record. Geno's rookie year numbers did not look pretty, but the Jets still believed in Geno Smith going into the 2014 season due to the flashes he showed. Over the course of the 2014 NFL season, it became quite clear that Geno Smith may not have been the guy for the Jets because his play was ugly. His stats were mediocre at best, and the Jets lost a lot of games that year. Plus, he had that legendary bad performance against the Bills that I talked about earlier. In Week 17, and easily the bright spot of Geno's 2014 season, he had a random perfect game where he had a passer rating of 158.3. Yet another flash shown early in his career, but unfortunately for Geno, it was too little too late, and to end his sophomore year, Jets fans felt his many lows outweighed his seldom highs. So during the preseason in 2015, Geno Smith was famously punched by teammate IK Ennampali, resulting in a broken jaw. To sum up what happened, IK organized a football camp for the kids in his hometown, and Geno Smith promised he was going to show up and coach it. IK paid $600 for Geno's travel to the camp, and bear in mind, he was a 6th round pick trying to fight for a spot on the roster, so he wasn't exactly swimming in cash. Geno was a no-show to the camp. It was a major disappointment to the kids and parents. He later said someone he knew was in an accident, but this information wasn't relayed to IK until much later. IK wanted Geno to reimburse him, but Geno refused to pay. It was a big soap opera in the locker room, and people were cracking jokes and breaking IK's balls. Then, the punch happened, and Geno's jaw broke. I'm not saying that strike by IK was completely justified, but Geno had it coming. It really wasn't cool of him to not pay his debt and not even apologize to IK. IK was cut, and Geno was out for 6 to 10 weeks, and the Jets would immediately turn things around as they were blessed with the quintessential Fitzmagic season. After appearing in only 3 games between 2015 and 2016, Geno Smith would join the New York Giants going into the 2017 season. As a member of the Giants, Geno Smith is only remembered for one thing and one thing only, and that's starting over Eli Manning. For whatever reason, Giants coach Bob McAdoo benched Eli Manning in favor of Geno Smith going into their Week 13 matchup against the Raiders. This controversial decision put an end to Eli Manning's amazing streak of 210 consecutive starts dating back to Week 11 of the 2004 season. The Giants were struggling mightily in 2017, but this move was nothing but disrespectful to their longtime franchise quarterback. Giants fans and New York sports media hated this decision. At this point in his career, Geno Smith was known as the guy who got punched in the locker room and the guy who Eli Manning was unjustly benched for. Geno was on the Chargers roster in 2018, still hanging on to an NFL career as a backup quarterback, which some say is the best job in sports. In 2019, Geno Smith would quietly join the Seattle Seahawks, backing up the legendary quarterback Russell Wilson. He would patiently wait for an opportunity in Seattle, and oh boy, would that opportunity come. Fast forward to the 2021 season, and Russell Wilson suffers an injury, and Geno was ready to come in and seize his opportunity. He appeared in 4 games, starting 3 of them, and with this opportunity, at the very least, he earned himself a contract as backup quarterback, playing very solid football over these 4 games. So with Russ out of Seattle going into 2022, Pete Carroll handed the keys to the offense to Geno Smith, and with that privilege, Geno delivered. After beating Russell Wilson and the Broncos in Week 1, Geno had all the confidence in the world.
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
Blitz, Homer, picked it up briefly, and Smith flipped, wide open, caught, Presley, touchdown, Smith fires, end zone.
Geno tossed 30 touchdowns in 2022. He had a total of 34 in his entire career going into 2022. He threw for over 4,200 yards and was the most efficient passer in the NFL, completing a league-leading 69.8% of his passes. Amazing for a quarterback who once finished the game with more interceptions than completed passes. Geno has truly arrived in Seattle. Geno's comeback was amazingly remarkable. The way Geno played early in his NFL career would be a death sentence for any quarterback. Just look at E.J. Manuel. But Geno prevailed. He stuck around and seized his opportunity. And at 32 years old, had a legendary season, earning his first Pro Bowl appearance and leading a team to the postseason. This type of comeback season is nearly unheard of in the NFL, especially for a quarterback. I'd compare Geno's NFL journey to Steve Young's. Similar to Geno, Steve Young was a highly touted quarterback going into the draft, but he disappointed on a bad team early in his career. But he stuck around and seized his opportunity to finally start again, and at the age of 31, earned his first Pro Bowl nod in the process. Look, I'm not saying Geno is going to be as good as Steve Young. Obviously, Steve Young is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But for Geno to say that he's done something that arguably only Steve Young has done, that is an amazing accomplishment. They wrote him off, but he did not write back.